Rojas with the Chatham News and Record, and Coach John Berry is joining us for our weekly Chatham NC Sports Roundup. Today, we're going to cover high school wrestling. Got Seaforth and Northwood senior nights tonight. We're going to talk about Chatham Central, Jordan Matthews. We got some track and swimming events coming up this week, and then we're going to get into the high school basketball roundup. Asheebo is going to present his power rankings, and we're going to talk about all the different games that have been going on. And actually, last night was a pretty big night with a whole bunch of teams playing. Hey, it's Gene Galin right here. Asheebo's to that away, and next to him is Coach John Berry. Gentlemen, welcome. Let's rock and roll. So, Asheebo, let's start off with what's going on.
Yeah, last week was a lot of wrestling action going on in the county. So Jordan Matthews, they had to try and meet with Northmore and Graham, conference try and meet. They lost to Graham 30-39 and Northmore 24-54. And then Seaforth, we just talking about Seaforth. They've been dominating all their competition this year. Still undefeated. And at the try and meet against Northwood and Southeast Alamance last week, they beat Southeast Alamance. They beat Northwood 62-12 and Southeast Alamance 84-0. And in that same meet, Northwood actually got back and beat Southeast Alamance 42-40. And then at the Rumble in the Jungle meet hosted by Carborough on Saturday, Northwood went 1-3. They beat Carborough, but lost to Asheboro and Ashley and also Rockingham County. And then Seaforth also in that meet in Carborough, they went undefeated, beating Asheboro, Panther Creek, Ashley, and South of Granville. And then in girls wrestling, shout out to Kira Rosenmarker of Seaforth. She went 3-0 at the War Eagle meet on Saturday and was also named the most outstanding wrestler at the meet. And then we also had Chatham Central wrestling last week. They had a duel with Bartley Yancey and lost the duel 21-48. And that's all we have for wrestling.
Yeah, I went to the tri meet at Southeast Alamance. Seaforth definitely was the strongest of the three teams. Northwood had a pretty decent presentation. And again, they've got senior night tonight. You're going to be at, Seaforth has senior night tonight and also Northwood. And you're going to be in which one of those matches?
I'll be at Seaforth to see Seaforth, Chatham Central, and Jordan Matthews. So big county meet there. Get a chance to see three county teams wrestle at the same time. So
right, and get to see the Seaforth seniors. And there's also Seaforth seniors tonight. I think Josh Miller is one of their better wrestlers. He's a senior this year and will be graduating. And then the other thing you and I have been talking about, we got information from Coach Jason Amy from Seaforth that next Saturday, the 16th, Seaforth's having it's not a tournament, but a wrestling match over at Carmichael at UNC. So do you know what the time was on that yet or not?
I'm not sure. Oh, yeah, they'll be here. Here we go. We got Cary versus Seaforth. They're going to get started on mat 1 at 10 a.m. And then at noon, Seaforth will have Cardinal Gibbons on mat 1. And then at 2 p.m., Seaforth will have Laney on mat 1. So those are the three matches for Seaforth there at that event.
All right. And for you older folks who remember when UNC basketball used to play at Carmichael, it's an opportunity to go down memory lane. There's also a lot of the state championship games when it comes to North Carolina High School Athletic Association. High school championship games are played in Carmichael. Great venue. Look, it's Carmichael. It's just like at Reynolds tonight. Reynolds at NC State. The men are playing at Reynolds. It's just a whole different feel. It's old school. It's an opportunity to see and remember what it was like. And for young people, look, man, it's an opportunity to go into. It's a bigger area than the Seaforth gym, but it's a fairly intimate location. So that finishes up what we've got to talk about wrestling. And then on swimming and track, we've got some of that coming up. Asheebo.
Yes, we do. And also last week we had a track meet, indoor track with the East Chapel Hill Polar Bear meet. Chatham Charter, Northwood participated, and in that one, Chatham Charter's Lucas Smith won the boys 300-meter dash and the 500-meter dash. And his times, I think in the 300, he ran in 35.89 seconds. And in the 500-meter dash, he ran a time of 1 minute and 6 seconds. So those times qualified him for the North Carolina 1A state championship meet in both events. And there's some other top 10 finishers from Northwood, like Northwood's Joe Flynn finished 4th in the boys' 1,000-meter run with a time of 2 minutes and 59 seconds. And then on the girls' side, Sydney Gray finished 8th in the 1,000-meter run with a time of 3 minutes and 24 seconds. And then her teammate, Julia Hall, finished 6th in the same race. I mean, no, not in the same race. In the 1,600 with a time of 5 minutes and 46 seconds. So definitely some pretty strong performances at the East Chapel Hill Polar Bear meet last Saturday. And there'll be some more track meets to come as the indoor track season kind of winds down here before the state championship meets.
Information for you on next Wednesday's Chatham NC Sports Update. All right, here's the part that a lot of folks are waiting for. We're going to start off with Asheebo's power rankings, and as we're going to go through the power rankings, Coach John Berry is going to join us here. And the other thing is, Asheebo's, and they're going to talk about the games that they've been watching. A lot of action starting in the basketball side. So let me bring Coach Berry on here, and I'm going to be dropping off into the background. Oh, there's Coach Berry. Let me do this, and let me do this. There we go. And I am out of here, and we are ready to. No, I am not out of here. All right, I need to get my. There we go. I am.
All right. So yeah, disclaimer before we get into the power rankings, these are based off of games from Monday, November 27th to Friday, December 5th. December 1st, that Friday. So these do not encompass any of the games from last night on December 5th. I know we had the entire county playing on the boys and girls side. Very exciting night. But of course, for the boys side, number one, we have Northwood. And Northwood last night, they played their first game of the season. Finally get to see them in action, and it's a meaningful competition. And they beat Northmore 81-30. I don't think we got stats from that one yet, but Coach Berry, is that kind of what we expected from Northwood in their first game?
Yes. I mean, this is business as usual for Northwood, particularly in the conference. And I fully expect them to continue this throughout the entire year in the actual conference. They just loaded with players and tons of experience, and they just have a well-oiled machine at this point.
Yeah, man. And right now, I mean, knowing what they had coming back from last year, they got, like you said, a really deep team. I mean, they kind of the team to beat so far in the county, and really might be the big team to beat in 2A. So we'll see how that shakes out. And then Seaforth, last week, Seaforth had a pretty good week. They beat Carborough 87-74. And in that one, it was Noah Lewis leading the show with 18 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. And then they had also 4 other players scoring double figures in that one, showing that depth like we talked about last week. And then last night, Seaforth lost a close one to Grace Christian, 61-58. And then that one, it was Nate Emerson who had a lights-out game. He had 21 points, but still the Hawks came up short. So, 2-1 for Seaforth now. 2 good wins over some higher classifications. Grace Christian, Coach, you talked about Grace Christian last week, and you knew that one was going to be a really good game. So, what are your feelings about Seaforth after last night's loss?
As I said before, if they play a team that cannot handle pressure, they're going to have a lot of success. If a team is able to handle that pressure and finish on the back end of their pressure defense and make free throws, it's going to be a close game. I think last night's game in particular against Grace Christian, they did a pretty good job at managing the press. They attacked it, and they were fairly physical underneath the board. It was one of the things that Seaforth does as well is they gang rebound. They kind of like bully rebound. And Grace Christian had some other players that could match that intensity. And I think because of that, the game was always in striking distance for Grace Christian, because the truth of the matter is Seaforth had the lead for the majority of the game. It wasn't until the last 3 to 4 minutes of the game that Grace Christian came back and overtook Seaforth in the score. And it ended up being a situation where they were down by 3 points, with, I want to say 6 seconds left. And it ended up being a last-minute heave by Noah Lewis, which he missed, and ultimately Grace Christian won the game. As far as the power rankings, what I'm really interested in right now is seeing Seaforth play Chatham Central and playing Cummings, because I think that's going to go a long way towards them solidifying that second spot or not solidifying that second spot. But until they play one of those teams, especially Chatham Central, just given the fact that they are part of the county, I think right now, it's almost like a pick 'em, because I know that Chatham Central is right now is 5-0. And by the way, I did see them play that I'm going to talk about shortly. I saw them play last week against Triangle Math and Science, and they look very, very good. And I saw Seaforth play as well, and I think that's going to be a very entertaining, competitive game, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, and I was just about to say Seaforth, they still got them at the 2 spot now, but there's definitely some teams moving up. Chatham Central is definitely one of them because I got them at number 3 this week based off of their games last week. They had 3 games last week, went undefeated. Like you said, you were at the Triangle Science and Math one. They won that one 68-31. The night before, they beat South Davidson 73-58. And then I was at the Western Harnett game at Chatham Central on Friday night. They won that one 69-40. So, yeah, this is, the best 4-game start for Chatham Central since the 2020-21 season, 4-0 to start. And now I think they're 6-0 because they won last night as well. And really, Coach, is the start for them is Reed Albright. He scored over 20 points in every game this season. I think he had a 30-point game the first game and scored another 29 last night. So, I've seen, he can do it all. He can handle the ball. He's really effective in transition. He likes to get to the rim. And, how far do you think behind Reed Albright? And they got some other guys that can really play well, like Aiden Johnson down low, Devontae Johnson up at the top of the key with his defensive pressure. Just how far do you think this team could go this season?
I had a very long conversation with Coach Burke at that Triangle Math and Science game, and he basically told me that this may be one of his better teams as he's had ever since he started coaching. And he was particularly high on Reed Albright. Reed Albright's total package. He can shoot the jumper. He can drive to the rim. He can play above the rim. He's a leader. He plays with this free spirit. He's a problem. He's a big problem. The other thing that he does really well is he's an excellent guard. He has excellent ball handling skills. So to answer your question directly, Asheebo, I think that Chatham Central, this is a team that is definitely on the radar, on my radar. And I think that outside of Northwood right now, I think they're going to be a very tough out for any team that plays them, just because they have 3 seniors that's starting, and they also have 2 juniors. And those guys play really well together. They're in tip-top shape. And based upon what I was told, they want a team to pressure them. They want a team to play man-to-man against them, because from the perspective of Coach Berg, that actually brings out the best in their players. So I cannot wait until they play some of these other Chatham County teams, because, again, it's going to solidify what I believe may be the case. So definitely look out for Chatham Central. In fact, when I was talking to Coach Burke, he was more or less telling me that one of his biggest goals is to really, really compete, if not overtake Cummings, which typically has been one of the upper echelon players in the conference over the last couple of years. It was almost as if, he expects to have success on all the other teams, maybe with the exception of Northwood. So it's going to be interesting with that team. I would not look past Chatham Central by no stretch. And as we just now said, they are 5-0. They running through people, and it's how they running through people. And the other good thing that I love about Coach Burke is this. He'll get up on you 20, 30 points, but instead of him rubbing it in the other person's face, he actually platoons his players and gives the other guys on the bench an opportunity to play and develop. And I think that's a very, very classy act, by the coach.
Yeah, and not only that, like we said, they have a lot of players that can hurt you. They're kind of like Seaforth with the depth a little bit there. Like I said, Aiden Johnson, who's down low, and I'm really looking forward to seeing his matchup with Brendan Oldham on Friday when they play Jordan Matthews at home. That's going to be a good one. They also got Jeremiah Young, the young sophomore, who's been producing pretty well for them this year, and Luke Gaines as well. So a lot of great players, a lot of athletic players as well, because Coach Burke told me, this is one of the only teams that he's comfortable having play a man against other opponents. So they've really mixed it up on defense this
Yep.
year.
And to your point, Devontae Johnson, I got to give him a shout out. He's a great guard, another great point guard. He runs the show, very coachable, very calm. Super proud of him. I've been watching him for the last 2-3 years or so, and he is developed into a great high school basketball player. And I really love Aiden Johnson, number 10. He is what I call a rim protector, and he takes his job very, very serious. He's one of those gritty, grimy, want to get down and dirty type player that loves what he does. And he's the kind of guy that I think every team needs. You need that heart, that soul, that toughness, that, you know what, you come up on me if you want. It's going to be a long day. So I really like what I see in Aiden Johnson as well. As I said before, I love what they're doing over there at Chatham Central, the boys team in particular. And I think that I'm not going to say they're going to surprise people, but they are going to be a very tough out for most teams, maybe with the exception of Northwood. And that's sort of my take on Chatham Central.
Yep, and then we can go right into Jordan Matthews, who will see Chatham Central, like we said, on Friday, and I'll be at that one. Jordan Matthews, last week, they had a busy week. They had 3 games as well. They won 58-46 over Cedar Ridge, and then in that one, junior Brennan Oldham, he scored a career high at 24 points in that one, leading the Jets in scoring. But then they turned around and lost to Trinity 53-56 on November 29th, and won on Friday over Western Guilford. And then last night they lost another close one, 51-53 to Cummings. So, 3-3 right now on the season for Jordan Matthews. I think there's only been one game where they've been blown out, but the other ones they've been in there, one possession, and they've also been winning some pretty good games as well. So, with Brendan Oldham on the team, they also still got Kelton Fuquay playing well for them. What are you liking out of Jordan Matthews so far?
I think when you look at the big picture with Jordan Matthews, you have to be happy. You have to be proud of what they're doing. If you go back to last year, they didn't really have anything. They have a very young team. They had a situation where they had some injuries, and they weren't competitive in a lot of the games that they wanted to be competitive in. If you juxtapose that and move forward to the current season, they're doing leaps and bounds better than what they did last year. The Southern Lee game, which you were alluding to in terms of the game that sort of got away from, Southern Lee is a legitimate team where, they're well coached. They have some athletes. They play well together. So it's no shame in losing to a team like Southern Lee. I personally believe that the fact that they came 51-53 against Cummings, that's actually a major, major improvement for them. If you look at Jordan Matthews last year when they played Cummings, it may have been a running clock. So if you're telling me that all of a sudden in 1 year, with the same core players, with the addition of Brennan Oldham, that they came within a 2-point game of beating a team, Cummings, that completely blew them out last year, that tells you that they're a team to be reckoned with. They really have some players that's going to get out there and they're going to compete, for Coach Wiley and try to really make the school and administration proud of what they have going on. I wouldn't count them out either. I think, again, they're going to be real competitive against most of the teams that they play, particularly in the conference, maybe with the exception of Northwood. So don't sleep on them. It would not surprise me. And this is one of the things that, my teams typically try to do every year. There's going to be at least 1 or 2, maybe even 3 games throughout the course of the year where Jordan Matthews is going to have an upset. They're going to beat somebody that nobody expected them to beat. But because of the coaching and because of the fact that they play well together and they bought into the system, I promise you, they're going to get some teams that people weren't expecting them to beat. So keep up the good work, Jordan Matthews. I'm keeping my eye on you, and I'll be out to check you out soon.
Yeah, and Friday against Chatham Central, that's going to be a really good test to see, where they are, and especially if they come out and win that game at Chatham Central, that'll be really big for Coach Wiley and his program. Like I said, looking forward to that matchup with Oldham and Aiden Johnson down low.
Hey, before you go on, speaking about that Chatham Central versus Jordan Matthews game, How did the two of you see that game as playing out?
Yeah, so for me, I as of right now, I would get a slight edge to Chatham Central on that one. They're playing at home. Coach Burke has them playing really well right now, and I think they're going to throw a lot of different defensive looks at Jordan Matthews as far as man and zone, and even getting into the press to kind of rattle the ball handlers a little bit. And of course, I think they're going to try to run their offense through Reed, of course, and I think he's going to have another one of those games where he gets 20 plus. So it's just really hard to start Chatham Central offense to me, because even when defenders drawing on him, he's got shooters on the outside that he can dish it out to that can also knock down some shots. But I do imagine that one being a really close and competitive game on both sides.
This is a classic a backyard brawl. They're relatively close to each other as far as school proximity. They know each other. They've been playing against each other, going all the way back to when they were in grade school. So I suspect this game to be highly competitive. I also believe that when those two teams play, it's likely to be a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be a track meet, personally. I think they have some decent guards. They're going to get up and down the floor. They're going to run the ball, a lot. But at the end of the day, if you jam me up and you tell me I have to pick one team or the other, I would give a slight edge to Chatham Central for the reason that Asheebo said they're home. I think that they played together longer, than Jordan Matthews. They have some really, really good players in Reed Albright, and I love Aiden Johnson. I think Devontae's going to do a great job. And the other thing about Chatham Central is they're deep. They're 8-9 deep, where the level of their skill is this high. And I think over the course of the game, they'll probably start to run away from it. So, yes, I would give the slight edge at this point to Chatham Central. That's not to say that Jordan Matthews don't have a chance, because I think they do, particularly with Brendan Odom and the other guards that they bring to the table. It's going to be competitive. But again, if you put a gun to my head, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, okay, I would go with Chatham Central in this particular game.
All right, let's move to the next team on the power ranking, Asheebo.
Yeah, so at number 5, we got Chatham Charter coming in here. And last week, Chatham Charter, they beat Albemarle 70-61. And then they turned around and lost to West Oaks 33-62. So I got them sitting at number 5. And I know we've been talking about it all year, but totally different team for Coach Messier. But he's getting some really good production out of this guy, especially Brendan Lavelle. Because Brendan Lavelle, I'm sorry. Last night they lost to Aurora Charter 58-53 in a close one. But in that one, he had 26 points and 10 rebounds. Also, Jordan Regil has been playing really well for them this year. But just some really, tough losses there, close games sometimes that haven't been going their way. Not the same team as last year and as years prior. But I think, there's still a long season to go in the conference. It's just now starting conference play. So can't really count Chatham Charter out too early, can we, Coach Berry?
I haven't seen them play this year, but what I will tell you is this. Coach Messier is using the same blueprint he's been using for the last 10 years. He gets his guys in, he works them hard, he practices them hard, he puts his sets in, and he goes and plays everybody. He doesn't discriminate. He doesn't care how good you are, how bad you are. He plays them. And his basic approach right now is he wants to play as many teams as possible to get his team experience, so that when it comes time for conference play and ultimately state playoff time, his team is going to be at its peak, and it's going to give him the best opportunity to win and go as far as the team can actually go. So hats off to Coach Messier. Some coaches wouldn't do that. They would take the easier route, play easier teams just to kind of pad the record and just to kind of like make it appear as a little bit better than what it really is. But he doesn't discriminate. He's going right out there and he's playing. I don't hold any of those losses against him whatsoever. I think the key thing is look at what he does in the conference with a completely new team. And if he wins the conference and that leapfrogs him into the state tournament where he gets a couple of home games, he wins a couple, I think that would have been a great season for him. Relative to the power rankings, yes, I would agree with you as well on this one. Asheebo, they would be in that 4 or 5 spot right now, because I think, the fact that he has a newer team, and the fact that you got Jordan Matthews on the come up, you have Chatham Central. We talked about that. Seaforth is right there as well. And obviously, you have Northwood. That's probably where he would be at this point. If this was last year, I would have a totally different disposition with Chatham's charter. I would probably put them like closer to number 2 because I think that team last year was a special team. They just happened to get bounced. I believe it was the semifinals of the state championship last year. So hats off to Chatham Charter. Keep doing what you're doing. Compete in that conference. Get yourself ready for state, and let's see where the chips fall.
Yep, and then at the 6th spot, we got Woods Charter, 1-4 in the season. They lost last week to Discovery Charter, 29-61, and then last night they lost to Eno River in a close one, 51-56. Woods Charter still kind of like a developing team down in the 1A level with Chatham Charter. And we're getting into conference play. I think that was their first conference game. I have to check, not mistaken. But
what team was it?
Who they played?
Yeah, the conference.
Eno River.
Okay. Yeah.
So, just getting into the conference play, and then they got plenty of time, like we said about Chatham Charter, to kind of get some things going there. Coach Barry, you got any thoughts on Wood Charter?
Yeah, just a young team. It's just young. They have to get the experience. They have to go through the wars, and as long as they stay together over time, I'm talking years, 2, 3, 4 years, I think we'll have something. I think we'll get something out of them. But for right now, to judge them, it's not fair to Woods Charter. It's not fair to Coach McNair. I think we have to give them a little bit of time, and let's see where the chips fall at that point. But right now, it's clearly not a fair fight right now to put them up against some of the upper echelon teams just because they're so young at this point. But I'm proud of them. Obviously, I'm partial to Woods Charter. I bleed Wood Green. I know the faculty, the administration, the coaches. So just keep doing what you're doing, keep fighting, and over time, you'll get where you need to be.
All right, and then we got girls basketball.
Yeah, let's hit on the ladies.
Yep, girls basketball coming up. So in my power rankings, I still got Seaforth at number 1 last week. What did Seaforth do last? Actually, I don't think they played last week. Yeah, they did not play last week. So last night they lost to Grace Christian 63-34 in a tough one. Coach Barry, were you at that one last night?
Yes. It was a valiant effort by the Lady Hawks at Seaforth. I think the first half it was very close. I think the score was 29-23 at halftime. It should have been like 26-23. There was a questionable call at the very end of the half where the referee said that one of the Seaforth girls fouled a 3-point shooter. The girl goes to the free throw line, knocks down 3, brought the 29-23. In the second half, the game got away from them a little bit for various reasons. One of the biggest ones was we just had a hard time scoring. And when you sometimes don't score, things start to steamroll and get out of control, get out of hand. But I had a long conversation with Coach Bird, with the Lady Hawks, and at the end of the day, this was a great experience for the girls because what it did was it pointed out some areas that we can grow at as far as offensive sets, as far as where we can put personnel, as far as certain skills that we have to develop. And ultimately, what's going to end up happening is this particular short-term pain is going to be a long-term gain for the team because a lot of those areas that reared its ugly head will be addressed in practices so that when we play those other teams like the Chapel Hills, like the Cummings, like the Northwoods, like whoever, the team is going to be much more suited to deal with some of those challenges that they experience against the Grace Christian. But to your point, Asheebo, they're definitely still my number 1 team. And if someone thinks for a second that the Seaforth Lady Hawks is lesser than what people are saying, they're going to be sadly mistaken because this team is still for real. They're definitely my number 1 team.
Yep, and yeah, like you said, that's the good of coming out. The good of coming with playing the great competition like Grace Christian because like we said, there's going to be a lot of. At number 2, I got Northwood.
Let me say one more thing here, Asheebo.
Yeah.
The one thing I want to point out with Grace Christian was they were champions last year. The other thing with Grace Christian, they have a girl, Sarah, I forget her number, Sarah. She's the number one girl high school player in the country. In the country, that particular team that Seaforth played against, they play year-round together, AAU basketball. Any team that plays that team is going to have a major, major problem. I promise you that. So this team, by no stretch, was scrubs. They got an upper echelon player on that team. In addition to that, they got about 3 or 4 other D1 prospects starting on that team. They can shoot threes. They can move the ball. They can dribble. They can play the post. They can play man-to-man full court. They can play that 1-3-1 full court. They can drop down to a half court. They throw different looks at you each and every time you on the offensive end, every single time. So this was a very, very, very good team. And it's my belief that they'll probably win the championship again in their conference. And then, at 1A. In addition to that, I don't think they're going to lose more than 2 to 3 games the entire year. That's how good Grace Christian Academy is. And if anybody want to try them out, go ahead and put them on your schedule and play them and see what happens.
Yeah, that's big time. I didn't even know they had all those girls on their team.
Yes, they loaded.
Yeah.
In fact, when you go to that gym, you can tell how loaded they are, because when you go to that gym, their gym has the same audio equipment as like a college, as like a pro arena. They have instant replay up on the screen. They have the digitized table. They got money coming in that place all over the place because of the successes that girl team has had over the last 2 or 3 years, ever since Sarah came over there and started playing, on Grace Christian Academy.
Wow, that's some really cool stuff right there. And then, but yeah, I want to get into Northwood, who I got at number 2 for the power rankings. Northwood last week they lost to Apex Friendship at home, 51-58. And in that one, that was their first regular season. That was a rare regular season home loss for Northwood girls. I mean, that was their first regular season home loss since 2019, when they also lost to Apex Friendship 60-50. So this one, I was at that game. Apex Friendship, they brought some really good players like Jasmine Navarre, whose sister is on the UNC women's basketball team right now, and she was hitting from mid range. They were getting into Northwood's defense and hitting mid range shots, also getting to the rim. But also on Northwood's end on the offensive side, just wasn't really hitting shots, and also weren't really hustling to those offensive rebounds like we usually see from Northwood. So kind of a slow start for them, but they, even though going down, I think they were down a couple at halftime, pretty good margin. They come back in the second half, they get the press going, they go on a run, and they bring the game within single digits. So they showed a lot of fight in that game against a really good competition in Apex in that one, but they just came up short. So last night though, they did get a big win over Northwood in the first conference game. Coach Snipes actually just sent me the score. I thought I wrote it down. They won that one 58-20 over Northmore. So a good bounce back game for them in that one. So what do you think about Northwood girls, Coach?
Yeah, I listen, do not sleep on Northwood girls. I think they have a very, very legitimate team. I think they have like 1 through 4, 1 through 5 solid players across, and anything is possible with them. They are definitely going to compete against Seaforth. I still have them at the 2 spot, but I'm telling you, this is a team you cannot sleep on. On any given day, they could be anybody, including Seaforth. When you look at the fact that they have Natalia Whitaker, they have Nia Henry, they have Skylar Adams, they have the Glover sisters, they have the girl Robert that comes off the bench. There's another girl, Maddie. She's another 3-point shooter. They well coach. You have about 2 or 3 of those players that played 2-3 years ago on that championship team. So they have the championship medal. You have the coach. That coaching staff has been there the whole time. It's a well-oiled machine. And on any given day, they are going to be a problem. I love Northwood. I love what they're doing over there. And, I can't wait until they play Seaforth, because I think that's going to be, like they like to say, the rumble in the jungle, the backyard brawl. it's going to be highly, highly competitive.
Yep.
And, I don't necessarily think that's going to be a blowout either way. That game could very easily go down to the wire. That being said, I still agree with you. I still right now would put Northwood at the 2 slot, and I would keep Seaforth at the 1 slot.
Yep. And for number 3, I moved another team up based off their performance last week. I got Chatham Central at the 3rd spot. Last week they went undefeated in their 3 games. They beat South Davidson 69-34, Triangle Math and Science 70-37, and Western Harnett 62-31. So 3 really big wins. And that week and during the week, Carollyn Dotson combined for 58 points and the 3 wins. So they were just looking really good. And I know last night Chatham Central did lose a tough one to Southeast Alamance 70-35. Southeast Alamance is a really good team that has come along in their first year playing girls basketball. So, but I mean, Chatham Central, they've been like we talked about them a little bit. I saw them play in the second half of their game against Western Harnett, and they play exactly how Coach Albright said they were going to play: gritty, with a lot of confidence. They're gonna hustle for loose balls. They're gonna play fundamentally sound. And with Carollyn Dotson down low, she's really, really good in the post game, getting to her spot down low and getting those buckets. I think she even had 16, in the loss to Southeast Alamance last night. So some good things coming out of Chatham Central to me that had them put good enough to be the number 3 team for this week. What do you think about that, Coach Berry?
Chatham Central, the girls, they're continuing with their legacy. Chatham Central typically is going to be a gritty, grimy, hard-nosed, blue-collar type team. And after seeing the Chatham Central team, the girls, play last week against the Triangle Math and Science, they did not disappoint. They have a solid core girls, a solid core. They play really, really hard. Coach Albright is really, really intense. The team takes after their coach in terms of how they play. I definitely believe, in Chatham County, they would be in that 3rd spot. You have Seaforth, you have Northwood, you have Chatham Central. You probably want to throw Jordan Matthews. I'm not going to go into it yet. But, yeah, I would go ahead and put them at that point. They're going to play hard. They move the ball really, really well. They can go man. They can go zone. They move, they're not selfish. And they hold each other accountable. And the interesting thing about that team was one of their star players was actually injured the game that I saw them play against Triangle Math and Science, and then they still won the way that they won. So, no, hats off to Coach Albright. Hats off to some of the girls over at Chatham Central. I'm looking forward to their continued development and play some of these other teams in Chatham County, such as Jordan Matthews, just to see what's going on with that.
All right, gentlemen, we need to move this along and wrap this up. So keep on going.
Yeah. So in the 4th spot there, I got Chatham Charter coming in at the 4th spot. Last week they lost a close one to Albemarle, 65-64, 1-point game, but they came back with a big 52-32 win over Eastern Randolph. And in that game, Mia Brooks scored 26 points. And last night they had 28 from Hannah Hedden, the freshman, and their win over Urari Charter 59-57. So they're finding ways to win, and their best players are playing really well with Hedden and Brooks. So I'm really liking to see what really liking what I'm seeing out of Chatham Charter, and I imagine them going up further in the power rankings as the season goes, because Coach Patterson down there always got a good team, always gets them level-headed. So, Coach Berry, any comments on Chatham Charter?
No, I'll ditto. I believe the same thing at this point. As I have nothing more to add to that.
All right. And then at the 5th spot, I got Jordan Matthews sitting there. And then I know it seems like, because they're low, I'm saying it as if they're not one of the best teams in the county, but it's really competitive in the girl side this year. And Jordan Matthews is one of those teams that can also beat probably the 3 through 5. You know what I'm saying? So Leah Carter playing really well for them. I think last week, Jordan Matthews, they beat Trinity 35-33. Western for 12-80. Last night they were in a tough one with with Cummings. They were down 10 at halftime, 34-24. They come back, and at the fourth quarter, they're down 34-32, shooting free throws on a technical foul. But a fight breaks out between some of the girls, and the game had to get suspended. But Coach Piggy was telling me just a few minutes ago, Leah Carter had 19 points up to that point, and they found a way to chip out the lead and get some stops, because I don't think Cummings scored in all of the third quarter. So really good to see them, do that to get some good competition, like we said, in Cummings, and climb the way back. They got Chatham Central on Friday that I will be there for in that one. And then at the 6th spot, I got Woods Charter. And last night, they lost to Eno River 35-33. And despite the loss, though, Carollyn Mitchell, who's been playing really well for them, she still had 18 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists in that one. So that's the power rankings for the girls.
All right. Let's wrap it up with what's going on in the Chatham News and Record. Asheebo, who's your athlete of the week, and what stories have you got covered in the newspaper that folks need to pick up the newspaper and read about?
Yeah, so athlete of the week this week will be Reed Albright from the Chatham Central boys basketball team. He's been on a tear with scoring this year, especially last week. So in those 3 wins, I think he combined for 73 points. He had 29 against South Davidson, 22 against Triangle Math and Science, and another 22 against Western Harnett. And then look back until last year, he scored 9 straight. He scored 20 points, at least 20 points in 9 straight games, dating back to February 10th. And as of Monday, I was looking at some stats. He's got 26.5 points per game, which is the 6th highest scoring average in all of the North Carolina High School Athletic Association. So shout out to Reed Albright for having a great season so far. And then other stories going on in the paper. We got game stories from Northwood girls versus Apex Friendship, Chatham Central boys versus Western Harnett. We also have a small story on Chatham Central dedicating their newly painted bear logo in the middle of the basketball court to a former student, Michael Gurley, who's a 3-sport athlete at Chatham Central and passed away with his father in a tragic car accident in 2020. And so they honored him with the bear logo, and also will have a plaque dedicated that logo to him in the lobby. And then we also have, of course, a sports roundup, and I think there's one more. Oh yeah, I forgot. I had a feature with Abby Copeland at Jordan Matthews. She's a junior student there, and she brought back the Powder Puff game that had been a tradition at the school for many years. And she started 3 years ago. She just did her 3rd one in October, and it's a really cool story to see how the family connection goes into it, because her grandfather is the legendary Jordan Matthews coach Phil Center, who coached there for I think 19 years and did a lot of great things with the Jets football program. So also has his name on the stadium. So great family moment for Abby Copeland and her family, who help out with the Powder Puff games there at Jordan Matthews.
All right, folks. So that's the wrap up. You got to pick up a copy of the Chatham News and Record. Look at Asheebo's articles. Gentlemen, where are you going to be for the next 7 days? What sports events are you going to be? Asheebo, let's start off with you.
So I know, like I said, I'll be at Seaforth tonight for wrestling with Jordan Matthews and Chatham Central. But on Friday, I'll be at Chatham Central for girls and boys basketball with Jordan Matthews. Big rivalry night. So looking forward to being there.
Coach Barry.
Friday, I'll be at the Seaforth Graham game, particularly with the girls. I want to see how they rebound from the loss against Grace Christian. I'm also going to double up, and I'm going to go to Northwood. So I'll be there with you, Gene, particularly with the boys playing Southeast Alamance, I believe. So if we're going to, color commentate that, we'll go ahead and knock that out as well. So I'll be at the Northwood game on Friday. And then there's also another game this Saturday at Seaforth with the girls playing Chapel Hill. So it should be a really good game there, because last year we played them. They edged us out. Gabby White didn't play in that particular game. It was a close game all the way to the end. This time we have all of the girls, all of the players ready to go. So we're going to see how that turns out as well. And then next week, I'm going to try to double up and catch a Chatham Charter game. I want to go check them out with Coach Messier to see what's going on with them, as well as the girls.
All right, and I'll be at Northwood on Friday for the 2 Northwood games. I'll probably be over Saturday. Seaforth's playing. There's going to be 3 games at Seaforth. I think the girls are playing 2 games, if I'm not mistaken. Coach Barry, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
No, they
And I'm
play
trying
one.
to
They
be
play
there.
Chapel Hill, but there's another 2 games with some other teams that they'll be playing as well.
All right. So yeah, look, if you want to get your money's worth, head out to Seaforth on Saturday. So folks, that wraps it up for this week's Chatham NC Roundup. Thanks for watching. A bunch of you I've noticed have been watching steadily. Last week, our numbers continue to climb because you don't have to watch us live. You can watch us anytime during the week. We had 702 viewers, which thank you very much. We keep on going up every week. So I appreciate it, Doc. If you have somebody who's a friend or relative that plays on one of the basketball teams, let them know about what's going on out there. Let us know how we're doing, and we will see you folks next week. Thanks for